Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद वृंदा थैंक यू
Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
It's recording, you know. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. Yes, start. Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Krishna Prasthaya Srimate Bhakti
Namaste Bhagavani Pratharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Hare
Harinam Sankirtan ki
Jai.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai. God Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mataji Hare
Pranam. All Krishna Shri Prabhupada.
Dhanyavad Prabhu Srila Prabhupada. Ajit Krishna Prabhu has not joined yet. So let's see. Just a minute. What is the status? Yeah, he responded to my message. So probably he'll be joining. But until then, either we can recap. Okay. Last week's, it's been 2 weeks now. Hopefully everyone remembers. So let's go back to our computers and then recap. Okay. Mike, give me a couple of minutes. Sorry for a little delay.
No worries, no worries.
Hare Krishna ji.
Hare Krishna, Tyaguji, how are you?
Very good. How are you guys?
Good,
Saranga ji.
doing good, Tyaguji. You back?
Yes, Ji.
Okay, okay, good. This was a busy week actually for all of us, I think.
Yeah, actually, some of the temples, they have Snana Yatra festival today.
Ah,
So it's a 3-day festival they're doing. Like in New Jersey, they're doing 3-day festival. So most of the devotees are there. And
I see.
some devotees have gone to New Vrindavan, you know. So
Oh,
this
they're having something in New Vrindavan also?
no, nothing, but this week it's like little slow, and it seems like they had a long weekend on 19th. So some of them have taken floating holidays this week because of that.
I see.
Because
Okay,
it was
okay.
decided immediately, right? So
Right.
some companies have given floating holidays, so they've taken this week. That's why they're off.
Right.
Like our Ramsham Prabhu and family, they are in New Vrindavan, so they're not going to join today.
Okay.
And also there was 24-hour Kirtan in the weekend in New Vrindavan.
Yeah, is it? Okay. So,
Yes.
Oh, there was 24 hours. Okay.
Yeah. Usha Mataji, Rama Prabhu, they attended actually. They were there for 3 days. So initially it was supposed to be 1 hour, and they said it seems it's 24 plus. So
Oh, really?
24 Kirtan continued more than almost 2 days. That's what they said.
Wow. Well, that's very nice. Power of the Lord's holy name.
Mhm.
so we will see little less strength here this today.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, so should we get started?
Yes, Prabhu, we'll start with the recap because it's been 2 weeks now. So we
Yes.
need to recall what we learned. So last week, as I said, we didn't have our regular satsang, but we had a quiz competition for kids and adults
Uh-huh.
from different scriptures, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita. So it was interesting because we learned a lot of new things.
It's very nice. That's a good way to actually learn. I mean, with the quiz and all that. It's wonderful.
And it was full house. Last week it was full house.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
So anyone wants to volunteer?
Which I forget which one we were doing, so I need a recap too.
Okay. Kirtida, you want to recap?
Sure, Prabhuji.
I think it's text 4 and 5.
3, 4, and 5 is what we
3, 4,
did.
and 5. Okay.
Well, yeah, did we do actually I was thinking we just did up till 3.
Yeah. I mean, we read the shlokas for 3, 4, and 5, Prabhuji, but of course we did not complete that.
Right.
Okay. Chapter 3 begins with Arjuna questioning Krishna, like like he is thinking, if Buddhi Yoga was better than Karma Yoga, then why is the Lord asking him to engage in this fruitive activity, of the war? So he's asking the question so that he can make a decision and clear all his doubts. Though in chapter 2, Krishna had already spoken about Sankhya Yoga and other things, but it was just in a brief. So here in chapter 3, he is explaining in detail, and this actually, it's helping us. Arjuna is asking all these questions only to help us so that we understand everything in detail. And last week we were talking about there are two kinds of people with with the different faith, depending
Right.
on faith. Yeah, and one was jnanis, and the second one were devotees. Devotees were engaged in karma yoga, and jnanis, they were engaged in sankhya yoga. So here actually Arjuna, he is getting his answer from Krishna for whatever he had asked. That the war, it is as a devotional service and definitely not like a fruitive activity.
Right.
That's all I remember, Prabhu. That
Thank you, Mataji. I think that was really the main substance of what we had covered the last time. The distinction between the person acting in karma yoga and the person acting in jnana yoga. And Arjun was thinking that these are two different paths and they would lead to two different results. So we had briefly touched upon how both of these yogas are different levels on the yoga ladder, but leading to the same goal. So thank you, Mataji. It's a very good recap. Anybody else?
I remember a couple points, Prabhuji, especially about restraining from work. It's not easy, at least in Kali Yuga now, that you cannot say, I don't want to do this work. So as text 4, we slightly touched on that. So Krishna is like you can't give up, at least for us in Kali Yuga. So the summary, what I remembered was from that context, like we cannot give up the work, but in order to do the work, if we think that if we are doing for Krishna, which is again very difficult to always remember, then you will forget that you were even doing the karma. So that thinking that you're doing it for Krishna is what is the key point to remember, and that's what in these three texts, like you're doing your duty for the will of God, like that. So that's
Right.
just the cup. And then you had given couple like good examples, but I'm not able to honestly remember, Prabhu, sorry.
And that's why Muktasanga Prabhu has the recording, so we can always go back to that.
Right. No one can be fine.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. I think thank you for those points. Anybody else? I think that's
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Let us pronounce all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Mataji, we can't see you, so
Yes.
that's why.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Oh, here, okay.
So, Arjuna was asking why are you engaging me in fruitive activities by fighting against my own people, and I would accumulate sins. So Krishna gave the answer like there are two paths, two ways. One is performing the karmi yogi, two persons, like one performing the karmic yogi and one is Sankhya philosophy. So and Krishna explained the difference between the both. There is a slight difference in the ladder. You showed us the picture of the ladder. And so it's a one step higher. The karma yoga is one step higher than the Sankhya philosophy, because this is a process by analysis and studying the philosophy. Then we go into karma yoga ultimately. But karma yoga by itself, that process itself is purificatory process. So that way our mind and the senses would come to control.
Yes.
Thereby we engage all our activities in serving the Lord. So that is what and few more points is like Krishna was explaining like both these paths definitely go to the same result. It gives the same result, but the reach is fast. The maybe fast track can
Fast
take.
track, right?
Yeah, karma yoga is like rapidly you can reach the success. And you had given a brief introduction about 2.5 too. In the last class we covered 2.3 and 4, and you just gave an overview kind of 2.5, like our mind is acting every second and every moment. So through karma yoga, that mind can be controlled, and we can just remember Lord Krishna always. So what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. I think that was a very comprehensive recap of what we had covered. And indeed, the yoga ladder we had discussed, and we had actually discussed that the karma yoga that we were referring to at that time was acting fully in Krishna consciousness, and that's why it was higher than Sankhya Yoga. As we go to the future the future verses, we'll get more into detail of the yoga, into more details of the yoga ladder. But so these were very nice points. Thank you for recapping those, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Anybody else with a thought from last time? Okay, then I think we can, we'll start with the reading today. So, since we had discussed 3.3, so I think we can start with 3.4 today. 3.4, chapter 3, verse 4. So who would like to read?
Any kids to start with? Suhrit, Prabhu, Vrinda,
Rajna is also here.
Rajna,
Rajna
Mataji.
3.4, right, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Na karmana manarambam
Na karmana manarambam
nishkaryam purushosnute
nishkarmayam purushoshnute
na cha sannyasana deva
nata sannyasana deva
siddhim samati gacchati.
siddhim samadhi.
Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Vrinda Devi.
Hare Krishna. Nahi kaschit shanamapi
Nahi
jatu tishtatya karmakrit karyate hi avasha karma sarva prakriti jair gune. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Suhrit, Prabhu. Yes, please.
6.
Karmendriyani sayamya
Karmendriyani samyamya
yaste manasa smaran
manasa smaran
indriyartan vimuratma
indriyartan vimuratma
tyachara sauchyate.
nityacharaha uchyate.
One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. So we can repeat 4, 5, 6 again.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Tyagu, Prabhu.
Yes, Ji.
Please go ahead with 4, Prabhu.
Yes, Ji. Na karmanam anarambam
Na karmana manarambam
Naiskarmam purusho nuste.
Na karmanam purushoshte.
Nachata shanyasant eva. Siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Translation. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Any
Krishna.
other adults? Mataji's, Prabhuji's.
Okay, Naki Kashit. Prabhu?
Yes, go ahead,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Naki Kashit Snanam Snanam Api
Nahi kashchit
Nahi
Kshanamapi
Jatu Dicchati Akarmakrit
jatu
Karyate hi Avasha Karma
karma
Sarva Prakritirjay Gunai Everyone, translation by Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Any other text?
Karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasa smaran
Te manasa
indriyarthan vimodhatma
vimodatma
mityachara sa uchyate. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I think we can continue now with the Prabhu. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmetam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishbhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah. So I read text 4 again. Na karma nama narambham nishkarmanyam purushoshnate na cha sannyasana deva siddhim samadhi gacchati. So the starting point again for us today becomes that Arjun is now confused. He's saying, Krishna, should I act or should I not act? And you've told me that, you know, I should not act in a fruitive way. I should act in devotion. And it seems to me that this whole path of Buddhi Yoga is better than fighting a war. So he's confused. And now Krishna is answering him. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is the common theme that will spread across these next few verses. So from verses 4 to verse 9, so verse 4 that we're starting today to verse 9, Krishna will basically explain to Arjun why acting is very important, or performing action is very important. And the reason Krishna will explain, or the theme that Krishna has exposed in these verses 4 to 9, is that we are living entities. We are spirit soul. We are not bodies. The body is just made of matter. And the body, because the soul is residing in the body is able to function, the body is able to move. So Krishna says how that the point for us to understand is that this body is moving, is functioning, is acting, is alive, is conscious because of the presence of the soul. And he says the nature of the soul is such that it is always active. The soul is always active. That is the nature of the spirit soul. And so therefore, Krishna in these verses from 4 to 9 builds upon that premise that the soul is always active, therefore the body will always be active, the mind will always be active. So how should we act? So once again, this is an important point, important theme to remember. Krishna is stressing to Arjun in order to remove his doubt that maybe I'll be better off if I went and just sat in a quiet place and meditated. Krishna is saying the spirit soul is always active. And so that causes our bodies to be active. And therefore, action is a natural propensity in every living entity. How that action should be conducted, that is the subject matter of this chapter. And that's why it's very, very important. And that's why 2 chapters in the Bhagavad Gita, 3 and 5, have been dedicated to this topic of Karma Yoga. So, with this background, now if we look at the translation for text 4, Krishna is saying, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction. And why is he saying that? He's saying that because Arjun was proposing to Krishna that Krishna, I don't want sinful reactions by engaging in a fight, in a war where I have to kill my own relatives. This seems to be very sinful. And I'm afraid of sinful reactions. So now that's a good thought. I mean, you should be, nobody should perform any activity that leads to sinful reaction. So from that angle, Arjun is saying the right thing. But Krishna is now explaining to him that, Arjun, if you think that simply by not acting you'll be free from sinful reaction, then that is a misconception. So that is very interesting. What this highlights is that even if you don't perform an activity, like in this case, if Arjun thought instead of fighting, he would go sit down and meditate, Krishna is now going to explain to him what some of the drawbacks with the meditation part of it also is. And therefore he says, if you think that Arjun, if you think that by not fighting you'll be free from sinful reactions, think again. And then Krishna says, because if you don't fight, then what will you do? You will become, you're saying you will take sannyas. And Krishna is saying, no. So to defeat that point, Krishna says, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Say, just because, Arjun, you think that you will take sannyas and give up this fighting and give up this battlefield and give up being a king, that you will be free from reaction and that you will attain perfection. Krishna says, no, it's not going to happen. Why is that? Krishna explains in the next verse and actually a little more in text 6 also, that simply if one sits in a place and meditates, but if the mind is thinking, oh, I wish I could eat laddus, oh, I wish I could be sleeping comfortably on my nice air conditioned house and things like that, and here I am sitting in a cave and meditating. He said, so Krishna says that that's the kind of trouble that your mind will give you, even if you're just sitting there and meditating. So unless the mind is purified, renunciation will not lead to perfection. And on the flip side, he's saying that if you fight in the war, because I want you to fight in the war, because if you're, or any action that you're performing, if you're performing it for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then it will not give you any sinful reaction. So these are the main points that Krishna wants all of us to understand, which essentially means that at every step, we need to assess our actions and assess our actions to identify whether we are acting to please the Supreme Lord, or are we acting simply to please our senses just for some material gain and so on and so forth. So in text 5, then Krishna says, everyone is forced to act. And then he says, act how? Helplessly. Everyone is forced to act helplessly, according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Isn't that true? If you think about our day, for example, throughout the day, we've been active, we've been doing something. Even if you were sitting on the couch, your mind was thinking of something. Things were going through your mind. The mind is also part of the body. And that is Krishna's point. He's saying everyone is forced to act, and we are acting helplessly. Why? Because again, this material body is what is acting. Material body meaning our gross body, which we can see, hand, feet, legs, arms, so forth. And the subtle body, which is mind, intelligence, and false ego. So these combinations, the 5 senses and then mind, intelligence, and ego, these are always acting. And they are under the influence of the 3 modes of nature, Sattvagun, Tamagun, and Rajagun. Because they are under the influence of those modes, they will act according to whichever mode is predominant at that moment in time. Simple example is, at some point of the day, if you were very angry at somebody for something, then the mode of ignorance was predominant in you, because mode of ignorance brings anger. So that's just an example. But the point is, Krishna is saying everyone is forced to act helplessly. So this helplessly part has to be understood very nicely. Helplessly, because nature is acting upon us. The 3 modes of nature are acting upon us. They are very strong. And we simply react to what influence comes upon us from the modes of nature. When Sattva Gun predominates in us, we are peaceful, we are calm. And when Tamagun predominates, the exact opposite happens. But all of these things are happening. The modes are influencing our mind and intelligence, and therefore the intelligence is telling the mind is then directing the brain, and through that the body acts. You lift your hand, or you speak something, or you think of something, or you walk somewhere, or whatever you do. All of that is done under the influence of these modes. And Krishna says, if you don't control the modes influence upon you, you will just act helplessly. So he says, according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something even for a moment. So the lesson to us becomes, Krishna is saying we are going to always be active and we will act under the influence of the modes of nature. So we have to somehow bring ourselves to the point where instead of simply just responding to what the modes are making us do, we make conscious decisions. We make conscious decisions in terms of how to act. I will do this and I will not do this. I will do that and I will not do the second thing, so on and so forth. How do we make these conscious decisions? Under guidance of the Shastra, under the guidance of the spiritual master. It is only then that we will know what exactly we are supposed to do. And so Krishna says, I am recommending that you accept that you need to act, get guidance in terms of how to act at every moment. Do not give up activity. Do not just jump and take sannyas. That's not going to help you. And the guiding force for your activity should come from the guidance of the spiritual master. Now think about it this way. There are two influences upon us. One is from the modes of nature, and the second influence is this first influence. Sorry, let me back up. The influence of the modes of nature is happening naturally. That is one source that impels us into activity. The second source is voluntary. If we voluntarily go and seek out a spiritual master, if we voluntarily seek the guidance of the Shastra, if we voluntarily study like we are doing now, studying the Bhagavad Gita, why? Because we want to understand from the Bhagavad Gita how we should act. What is Krishna saying? What is the Shastra saying? How we should act? So this is a voluntary search on our part. And so if we adopt this voluntary path of wanting to seek out guidance in terms of how to act, then we can either not either. We will gradually be able to make more and more and more conscious decisions about how to act. Otherwise, we'll just simply keep acting under the influence of the modes of nature. But when we get guidance when we voluntarily seek guidance from the Shastra, then that gives us knowledge. And with that knowledge, we can identify, oh, now I am under the influence of this mode and it's making me angry. Okay, I should stop it. I should not succumb to the mode of ignorance. I should not get angry. Or the mode of ignorance is saying, oh, this is wonderful. Alcohol is fantastic. Go ahead, have it. But then the guidance from Shastra, which we voluntarily sought out, will say, no, don't do that. So then we'll have the ability to choose. The ability to choose will then play a part in which path we pick to act. So Krishna wants us to not act helplessly, because he's saying, if you don't seek out the path of spiritual guidance, you will just keep acting helplessly under the influence of the modes of nature. And activity is a given. There is absolutely no choice. We will always act. Our mind will always think. It's only when you go to sleep, sometimes you're in deep sleep, that's fine. But when you're dreaming, then your mind is still acting. So Krishna is saying, in order to get benefit from your activities, it is better to seek guidance from a spiritual guide. Now, in the context of activity, the Vedas give us lots and lots and lots of guidance. So there math here really quick. If you give me 1 second, there are 100,000 lakh verses in the Vedic literature. So how much is that? So 100,000 times 100,000. Well, it's like, I don't know.
100,000 lakhs, is it, Prabhu?
It is 100,000 lakhs. So 1 lakh. I don't have Excel up. Probably my calculator it didn't have enough digits. Can you just tell me how much that is? 10 million or what is it?
No, it's more. 1 lakh, right?
Yeah.
It's 10 billion.
10 billion.
Yes. 10 billion.
10 billion. Okay. So that many verses are there in all of the Vedic literature. And the majority of those verses deal with Karma Kand. So Karma Kand, are we all familiar with it, or should I just explain that a little bit?
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Okay, so the Karma Kand part of it, basically, why there are so many verses dedicated to Karma Kand is for this exact reason that Krishna is saying in text 5, that everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. And therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Since we've started down this path of math, let's just use a math analogy. Let's say out of 24 hours, let's just for simple math, let's say out of 16 hours you're awake and you're acting. In 16 hours, there are 16 times 60, so that's 960 minutes times 60 seconds. So whatever that is, maybe 1,000 times 60, so 60,000 seconds. 60,000 seconds in a day that you're active. And so Krishna is saying one person is doing 60,000 different things during the course of a day. 60,000 different things during the course of a day. And if you multiply that by 7 billion people that are there on this planet, again, the number is huge, right? So there are so many activities. My point here is 60,000 activities one man is performing during the course of a day times billions of 6 billion people. So many different activities are being performed during the course of a day. So if there are 10 billion verses in the Vedas, majority of which are directed towards telling us how to act, or the Karma Kand section, that's not surprising, right? Because there are so many activities taking place. So the guidance is also got to be, if there are so many different such a large number of activities are taking place in a day, naturally the guide that tells you how you should perform those activities will also be very, very voluminous. So that's why the Vedas are voluminous. And majority of them are on the Karma Kand section. What that means is the Karma Kand section explains to us how we should perform activities in order to get a good result. Karma Kand is different from Karma Yoga. Yoga means you are linking yourself with the Supreme, whereas Karma Kand basically means that a person who's following Karma Kand may not necessarily know that the goal of my activities is to please Krishna. But the person says, whatever I do, I want a good, auspicious result. I don't want sinful reactions. And I want a happy, peaceful, comfortable life. So the Vedas tell you, you perform at this time, you perform this activity, this sacrifice, or if you are performing such and such activity, do it like this. So for example, when a baby or baby grows into little slightly older age, and then the studies are going to start, so there is a nice puja which pertains to an auspicious start of the process of education. And why do we do that? So that the education that the child will get will yield good results. So Karma Kand describes to us the process by which all of our activities during the course of the day can be performed in an auspicious manner for auspicious results for a happy life while we're in this material world. So it's very nice and it's very good that Krishna has provided this guidance. Now, but what happens is the Karma Kand piece itself helps people achieve good results. And when they achieve good results, they also realize that, look, I performed these pujas, I followed the Vedas, I followed the instructions, and therefore I got these good results. So that makes them develop faith in a higher power. They may not know who that higher power is or what the higher power's exact description is. How does the higher power look like or whatever, but at least they accept by following the Karma Kand process that there is a higher power. And so this is the purpose. This is the reason why Krishna in the Vedas has given the Karma Kand section, and the Karma Kand section is so voluminous. Majority of the Vedas is covered by Karma Kand. And so this is Krishna's way of helping us try and develop at least an acceptance of a higher power. Otherwise, people would just be atheistic. Now, from this, after this Karma Kand state, a person who is more interested, or a person who has developed faith that yes, there is a higher power. Now I want to understand who this higher power is. What am I supposed to do to, please this higher power and so forth. When that kind of curiosity comes into a person, then the process of yoga actually starts. Yoga meaning the person is trying to link himself or herself with the Supreme, or is trying to understand who the Supreme is. So we'll get more into this as we go to the future verses, as those verses explain all of this stuff. But for now, the point that we want to kind of get very clear in our mind is what text 5 is saying, that everyone is forced to act helplessly. You're acting throughout the day under the influence of the modes of nature. Some actions will be auspicious, some will be inauspicious. Some thoughts will be auspicious, some thoughts will be inauspicious. So each one of those actions will have a reaction. A good action will have a good reaction, bad action will have a bad reaction. And so typically people go after or follow or are in search of three things, which is dharma, arth, kam. And then fourth is moksha. Dharma, arth, kam, and moksha. So people say, okay, dharma, I will follow the principles of dharma. Or what does dharma tell me? What do the Vedas tell me? In order that I may have artha, that is economic development. And then if I can get economic development by following the principles of the Shastra, or as Karma Kand, then I will get artha, economic development. And with artha, what will I do? Kama, meaning satisfy my desires, satisfy my requirements. So these three things are, the Vedas give us this process, dharma, artha, kama. And then if a person goes even beyond that and says, okay, now I've got all these comforts by following principles of religion, but now maybe I need a higher goal. And so a few people will start thinking of moksha or liberation from a cycle of birth and death and all that kind of thing. But the liberation part, or the thought of liberation, comes only to a very few people. Most people are stuck in what verse 5 is saying, that you're just acting helplessly. Some good action, some bad action, some good action, some bad action. So that's how we just stay stuck in the cycle of birth and death. So Krishna says, okay, I will introduce a gradual process in the form of the instructions of the Vedas, from which, if you follow them, at least from the atheistic stage, one comes to the stage of having faith in a higher power, and that's the karma kand stage. So when you think of the yoga ladder, highest point is that of a devotee who achieves Bhagwan realization. Lowest point is atheistic. And in between, there are many levels. So let's go step by step. When you're at the lowest point, which is the atheistic point, in order to elevate people from being atheistic and saying there's no God, there's nothing, just our philosophy of life is eat, sleep, and be merry. Eat, drink, and be merry, whatever that saying is. That is the atheistic state of life, where a person has no knowledge, interest, or inclination towards God. By introduction of the Vedas, people try to get, at least they follow this. Well, when they follow the principles described in the Vedas, they at least come to the stage of some faith. So that's the next step from atheism. Next step is karma. So today we'll stop at that step and we'll build upon it as we go through the next few verses. But the idea is in karma kand, in a karma kand mentality, a person wants comforts in life and they want to follow the process of dharma, artha, kama. And when they follow the principles of Vedas, they get the good results that the sacrifices, etc., that are recommended can provide. But there is more to be done. There is a higher stage to go to, and that's where Krishna then will explain karma yoga, buddhi yoga, so on and so forth. So I think I'll stop here. It's 8:52. Open up for questions or any comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Madhavi.
You were talking about pretending, like you said, we get stuck at pretending. But we start pretending when we start our devotional service, like when we come to Krishna consciousness. Like how we are trained is, we like, like a tip, they giving some tips, they say you should start pretending certain things, even though I'm not able to explain correctly. So
What about pretending,
you're not a devotee, but you try to act like a devotee. That's how we start. Of course we have to progress, but like what if we get stuck? That is actually the first stage, right? Maybe not for everyone, but at least for some.
First stage meaning that you at least pretend to be doing certain things. Is that what you're saying?
Like you don't like to do certain things, but you pretend that you like and you try to do.
Yeah, that's what they say. If you can't make it, fake it.
If you can't make it, fake it. Right.
To start with.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll jump ahead a little bit. Although today I was just trying to go very gradually from the part of atheism to at least coming to karma kand realization. But since we are in the company of devotees, we have to jump ahead a little bit. Krishna says, and Prabhupada explains very clearly in the purports, that regardless of what stage you're at in this ladder, I mean, regardless of where you're at, if a person realizes that they need to serve the Supreme Lord, then the person has got that spark of Krishna consciousness. And that is actually, the person has already understood the highest goal. And therefore, when he or she has understood the highest goal, then whatever they do in pursuit of that goal will always benefit them. So even if you're trying to pretend that I'm liking this, but you don't like it, point is, you are doing, let's say It's waking up at 4:30 in the morning for Mangal Aarti. Now, you cannot expect a person who's just started waking up at 4:30 to go for Mangal Aarti to say, oh, I enjoy waking up 4:30. You won't. Or if you start chanting, you're saying, okay, I chanted 1 round today. Now they want me to do 4 rounds. I barely did 1. How will I ever do 4? We all have gone through this stage. But when you start chanting more, you say, not so bad. I could do it. It's not bad. I can do more. And then you do more, then you do more, then you do more, then you do more, and eventually come to 16. So why does that happen? Because this process is so purifying. The process has been given directly by the Supreme Lord, that even though you may not like it initially, but because you're doing it, it is benefiting you, and it is that liking is now starting to take hold in your mind. Meaning, this is like Mahaprabhu says, Bhakti Lata Bij. Once the seed is sown, gradually you water it. Gradually, you're chanting. You may not chant 16 rounds the very first day you start chanting, but you chant a little bit. That little bit is a little bit of watering. That seed will, if you're putting water on the seed, it is going to sprout into a plant one day. And then as you keep putting more water in the plant is sure to grow. And so each one of us has seen that happen in our lives. When we first came to devotional service, at least I didn't start chanting 16 rounds the first day itself. It took me years to get to that point. And that's most common with most people. So this process, and that is why Krishna says that if you develop this desire or this understanding that actually, you know what, I have to not just stay stuck in Karam Kand. At least first, I'm not an atheist. So you say, okay, you progress. Then you say, okay, I don't want to stay stuck in Karam Kand. There seems to be something more, because even though I'm trying all these pujas, the results are not coming. I'm not doing it properly, or whatever it is, right? In Kali Yuga, none of the pujas, or at least many of the pujas, are not performed perfectly, so we don't get the result every time. So you start thinking there's something higher. And eventually you say, okay, when we come into contact by the mercy of the Lord, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, we come into contact with the philosophy that Krishna has actually given, that is, do everything to please him. When you start doing that, or at least trying to start doing that, you start seeing these benefits and you start making progress. So that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Vedeshta sarve raham eva vedyo, Vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. He says, Krishna's super, he's God, so he's very intelligent. He Vedeshta sarve raham eva vedyo. He said, I have given the Vedas so that you can eventually come to me. It's a very scientific process. When people, even if they take to Karam Kand, they are lifted from being atheist. When they start doing Karam Kand, they start saying, oh, there's more to it, there's more to it, there's more to it. And as they start learning more and more, eventually they come to the point of Krishna consciousness. So even in the beginning, if you don't like what you're doing, and when somebody says pretend that you're liking it, that's actually a very nice thing. Why? Because psychologically you are making yourself more enthusiastic. Actually, in the karmi world, when people who are in sales, they have this saying, sales is a very tough job, especially if you're picking up the phone and trying to sell something to people. 99% of the time people get snubbed, right? The burnout rate is very high. So one of the tactics they tell these sales agents to do is put a smile on your face, even though you're not talking face to face with anybody, you're just picking up the phone. Put a smile on your face and tell yourself, I'm going to be successful in this call. So that gives you enthusiasm. So same way, this is just human psychology. If you're starting to do something new that you've not done before, you may not like it initially, but if you tell yourself, I have to like it, right? At least let me pretend I'm liking it. If it's a good thing that you're doing, eventually the natural liking for it will blossom in your heart. So I hope that helps, Martin.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
other questions or
Eugenia
doubts?
Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
When you said that 100,000 of 100,000, I got the part where you said that there are 10 billion
verses.
shastras or the things
Verses.
verses which talk about karma kanda. But what is that you said 100,000 multiplied by 100? What something you said how
No,
why
the,
that?
the 100,000 times 100,000, which came to 10 billion, that is just the number of verses that are there in the Vedic literature.
But why 100,000 times 100,000?
That's just the math adds up to 10 billion. That's all. I mean, I don't know why there are 10 billion. It's like, why are there 700 verses in the Bhagavad Gita or not 705? I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
No, if I understand correctly, her question is not, instead of telling directly 10 billion verses, why that split was made 1 lakh into 1 lakh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes.
The question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Madhuri. I understand. I don't know the answer to that, but that is how it is presented.
But if you tell in English, how you tell that sentence, Prabhuji? I couldn't get it.
Actually, in English, it's just very simple. Just say there are 10 billion verses. That's
Okay.
all. Yeah. You know, I think this is more a function of, like in Sanskrit, they say like 1008 is called Ashtotara Sat or
Yes.
something, right? So
Yes.
Ashtotara is so the units that they use in Sanskrit are like that. So that's why it's lakh times lakh.
Oh, lakh times lakh. That's
Lakh.
what.
So they're just using those units. In English, we use the units of 1,000, million, billion, that kind of thing. Whereas in Sanskrit, then they use this lakh is, I think, it must be koti or something. I may be wrong. There is a term for it.
Okay.
So that's all it is. It's just the convention.
And okay. So I just want to confirm my understanding, Prabhuji. So you said that there's 10 billion verses explaining only about karma kanda because most of the people are because there's that many activities involved, and that's why they had to give that many verses only about karma kanda, so that we know, okay, if we are doing this act, how we are doing. And then you said so there's so many of karma kanda and only no, I'm not like that, Roji. Yeah, you said karma kanda is different from karma yoga. Why? In karma yoga, it says how that act has to be connected with God. But as such, in karma kanda, this is what I understood, but I don't know if I'm clear. That's why I want to confirm. So what I understood is in karma kanda, it only talks about what is that act and maybe like why we are doing it. And if once if someone comes to know that why we are doing it, then that gives him the curiosity, oh, what is the right way to do it? And that's how they go from karma kanda to karma yoga. Is that my understanding correct, Prabhuji, or did I miss something?
No, you're mostly correct, Mataji. Just a few clarifications that I'll give. First off, on the count, so of the 10 billion, not all of them are karma kand, majority are karma kand.
Okay. Oh,
majority.
Okay.
Then, because the rest of it, like what is not karma kand, deals with devotional service, and devotional service also comes from the Vedic Shastra. So there is a little bit of room for that also.
Okay.
Then the other thing that you asked about was that what is the purpose of the of, let's say there are 80%, so 8 billion out of 10 billion verses deal with karma kand. So what is the purpose of that? The purpose of that is this, like a simple thing. Let's say a wedding ceremony is to take place. How should the wedding be done? You know, you do the saptapadi, the 7 feras around. There are so many ceremonies are there, so many things have to be done. Or like when a baby is born and they are going to be introduced to whole food, then they do Annaprasan ceremony. So all these things, these ceremonies are given so that people may perform these activities. Like a baby is going to eat for the first time.
Yes.
They want to perform that activity at an auspicious time, auspicious day, with the auspicious mentality, so that the child has an auspicious life. You know, and so in the Karma Kand section, the focus becomes Dharma, Arth, Kam, meaning that I'll perform my activities under guidance from scripture so that I may get a good auspicious result. And if I get good result, then I will enjoy my life.
Fruitive, like.
Fruitive. It is totally fruitive. It is totally fruitive. So, but what happens is, at least it's better than being an atheist, right? Atheist says, oh, there's no God. You people are mad. You think God, where is God? Show me God, then I'll believe God, right?
Yes, yes.
Whereas in Karma Kand, at least a person says that I want happiness in my life. I want auspiciousness in my life. I want good fruitive results in my life. So how should I achieve these things? Krishna says, here we go. Here is the Shastra. Here's the Veda. If you want this result, do this sacrifice. If you want that result, please do that sacrifice. So when a person starts doing those things and getting results, they say, oh, wow, there is some higher power that has given these sacrifices. I'm doing them and I'm getting the results. This works. You see? So that's how nicely the Vedas attract people to at least start believing in God.
God, okay. And then they get connected to Karma Yoga. Only very few people if they think of moksha. So that's why we're saying Dharmarthakam. Okay, so from atheist, at least you get to Karma Kanda, and from Karma Kanda, at least some of them get to Karma Yoga, and then they go to the main purpose.
Yeah. See, now remember so when somebody is following the principles of Karma Kand, they're doing it for their satisfaction.
Yes.
Dharma, Artha, Kama. Well, I want good result. So because I want, so I follow the Shastra. But your motivation is good result for yourself.
For yourself, yes.
But after doing this for a few years, Krishna says, or few lifetimes, whatever, Krishna says, by the grace of the Lord, by the mercy of the devotees, the awakening comes in your heart that if there is God who can give so much to me, what can I do for God?
That's Karma Yoga.
Then the yoga part comes in, you see, because then you are trying to please God.
God, not yourself, not for your comfort.
Not just yourself, you see.
Once you're satisfied, and then now you're thinking, what should I do when he gave me so much? And that's where it's that gratitude mode of service comes.
And also now, again, like we were discussing earlier, it won't happen in 1 second like that.
Yes.
Right? So there is when the desire for karma yoga comes in, then there is sakam karma yoga, where you are doing a little bit for your own self also, you're doing a little bit for Krishna also. So then there is sakam, there's mixture is there. Then finally nishkam comes, you say, okay, I don't want anything. But even that nishkam stage is a stepping stone. The love for Krishna, then that comes later. But there's a gradual development process. So the Vedas, they are very, very nicely scientifically structured so that they guide us from the lowest stage of atheism to the highest stage of being a devotee.
Yes. Okay. Got it, Prabhuji. Very, very well explained. Now I can connect the dots.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, this is what I had a difficulty too. First, you were saying we are all doing, in the Karma Kanda, we are all doing activities because our mind cannot stop even for a second. and we are always thinking about something, and then we are always performing something for the benefit for the benefit of getting good results. Okay, not necessarily we want the best, I mean, maybe it can happen or it may not happen, but what you are saying is that at the beginning of this thing, karma yoga, I mean, well, in this karma kanda or whatever activities you are doing, you are not actually linking up with Krishna. That's what you were saying, right?
Yes, in karma kand, you're not linking with Krishna. And so basically, Mataji, I think I understand your confusion. So let me just back up a little bit. In verse 5, Krishna says everybody's acting helplessly, right? In the modes of nature. In the lowest state, you think about an animal, right? What does an animal do? Animal simply acts under the direction of nature, right? I mean, like if you look at a bird, for example, when the sun rises, bird automatically is up. The whole day they will spend looking for worms, eating worms. At night, they'll go sit back on the tree, go to sleep, right? So their entire life is spent just surviving, just feeding the body. Now, so that is an example of acting helplessly under the modes of nature. Then even amongst human beings, there are 8.4 million life forms, of which 0.4 million or 400,000 different types of human beings are there. The lowest type of human being, their behavior is very similar to that of an animal. Morning to evening, they are just doing things to keep themselves alive and fed. That's all. The higher things of life, like somebody might say, okay, giving in charity or helping others or being kind to others, those things don't even cross their mind. So the Vedas, they are designed to help people achieve certain good results. Any human being wants good results or good things for themselves. The lowest type of human being is an atheist. Will say there's no God, I'll do everything myself, right? Little bit higher than the atheist is the person who says that I cannot do things myself because there's a higher power. I need to please the higher power, then I'll get things for myself. So then they follow the instructions of the Vedic scripture. Now, when we say Vedic scripture, then you might ask, okay, but what about the people who are not Hindus, who are not from our Vedic system? It's the same thing. I mean, people may follow their own faith, whether it's Christianity, Islam, whatever, but at least they are following what the scripture is saying because they have faith in a higher power. So that is the higher state than being an atheist. And then the yogic stages then come after that. So does that kind of clarify your initial base doubt, Mataji?
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah, another one is what percentage of the human population out of 400,000 human species, I mean, they are into thinking about that spirit soul, thinking about the higher subjects. It's not the lowest of the, just eat and sleep, whatever the functions you are supposed to do. Just go work 5 days a week and then enjoy the weekend, something like that, that concept. What percentage of the human beings are involved in the higher level of thinking, going back to God or linking up? So can you just...
Going back to human beings who want to go back to Godhead are a very, very, very small percentage. I don't have a number to give you, just like 400,000 is a very distinct number. I don't have a number to give you because that number probably varies. I mean, I don't know. And nobody can take a census of how many people are aspiring to go back to Godhead.
And how many has actually gone back to her Godhead? We don't have a statistics either, right?
We don't have this. Shastra says that if you follow the process, you will go back to Godhead. So it is true. It is just that we don't have a count of how many have gone back to God.
We do it out of just faith and believing in the scripture and the acharyas, what they have given us.
Faith is very, very important, and it is actually a sign of intelligence. You know, counter to what some people might say that faith is for the weak, not for the intelligent. But Nectar of Instruction explains that a truly intelligent person is one who can understand without even being told. The truly intelligent person observes and understands. Then there are others who will hear and they will understand, they will accept. And then there are others, unless something is thrust upon them, they won't understand and accept. So the most intelligent person observes and understands and accepts. So if we observe around us what is happening, very simple thing, till today there's never been a day when the sun hasn't risen up on time and not set on time. It's never late. You might say, people say, oh, that's just nature. How? It's not just nature. There is a system behind it. There is a system behind it. Just because we can't see the operator, Prabhupada uses these terms. He says, if there's an aeroplane flying in the sky, you know that there is a pilot who's steering the plane. There's a whole system of maintaining that machine. That's how the machine is flying. But for someone who doesn't know, who's just observing it from the ground, he says, oh yeah, that's just a plane flying automatically. Nothing is happening automatically. There is a system behind everything. There is a person behind everything. So same way behind this creation, behind the sun rising and sun setting and all these things happening and nature take seasons coming and going, it's according to a system. If there's a system, then there's someone who's put that system in place. So the intelligent person, according to Nectar of Instruction, observes and understands and accepts that there is a higher power.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhavi. You're welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. Anybody else? Any questions, thoughts?
I think we are good, Prabhu.
One more thing, Prabhu. The way you said, like, why the word helplessly, and I really like the part how you said, if we are not getting that consciousness of God, then you become servant to your own, or you act according to the modes of material nature, and that's where you become helpless. But instead, if you get the knowledge, then you won't do like that helplessly. Instead, you'll be smart with the knowledge. So I couldn't get that word helpless. I just that deep thought didn't come to my mind, but you explained it so that we can remember. Thank you, Prabhuji.
You're welcome, Madhavi. And it's actually very important to remember that point, because like we had discussed, so till one has that realization, you're acting helplessly, because your source, your impetus for action is only one, which is the modes of nature. But you can give yourself an option by creating the second source of impetus, which is the Shastra, the spiritual master, the guide, the devotees, Guru Sadhu Shastra. That is a voluntary source that you go after. The material modes, that's involuntary. That's automatically happening. That's why Krishna is saying, if you don't go to the voluntary option, you are acting helplessly, because option one will just overrule everything.
And keep on happening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
You're welcome, Madhuri.
Thank you very much for all the things.
You're welcome, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Prabhuji. I think
Yeah, I think we are good, Prabhu.
let me stop here unless somebody has anybody else.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Wonderful explanation, actually. Very practical. So it's just we have to implement it.
That's
the difficult part.
That's why the association of devotees is very important, because we can keep reminding each other about it,
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you, Prabhu. So before I let everyone go, as usual, the announcements that Sunday morning, it's a Pauganda Pravachan session this week. So please join and encourage kids. And this week it'll be Mujasvi Mataji. She's from Columbus, Ohio. She's just 80 years old, and she'll be talking about the glories of Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Oh,
so it's very interesting. So please join at 10 a.m. Same Zoom credentials on Sunday EST, Eastern Standard Time. And Sunday evening, 8 o'clock by His Grace, Adigadadar Prabhu, Chaitanya Bhagavad. Different credentials, I'll send that. So that's all for now. Thank you very much, Prabhu, again.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody.